Disclaimer: it's inspired by reality, shaped by imagination.
What happens when Hugh Jackman walks onto The View expecting to talk about gratitude, but ends up in one of the most heated debates of the year? The crowd erupts in cheers as Hugh takes his seat, flashing that effortless charm he's famous for. The topic sounds simple enough. Should national holidays focus more on senior contributions to history? But within minutes, the friendly conversation takes a sharp turn. Joy Behar, never one to hold back, smirks and says, "Hugh, you're all heart, but let's be honest, do we really need another holiday for old memories? Young people deserve their day too." The audience laughs, but Hugh's smile tightens. He's not talking about living in the past, Joy. He's saying it's about remembering the people who built the world we live in. Joy rolls her eyes. Or maybe it's about people not wanting to let go of their glory days. The audience gasps. Hugh leans forward, his voice dropping to a steady, emotional tone. "My grandmother was a nurse in World War II. She never wanted glory, just respect. That's all I'm talking about." A laughter dies. The air feels heavier. The audience leans in, sensing something real unfolding on live television. And as Joy crosses her arms with a raised eyebrow, viewers at home can't look away, because what happens next will redefine what respect for seniors really means. The studio lights feel warmer now, and the audience's anticipation is almost tangible. Hugh Jackman shifts slightly in his chair, maintaining his polite composure, while Joy Behar crosses her legs, ready to pounce with another quip. Whoopi Goldberg, sensing the tension early, steps in with a grin. "All right, folks, let's keep this civil before we turn this table into Thanksgiving dinner." The audience laughs, but everyone can sense what's coming. Sunny Hostin leans forward. "So, Hugh, you believe national holidays should do more to recognize seniors' contributions to history?" Hugh nods. "Absolutely. We celebrate independence, freedom, and progress, but we often forget the people who gave us those things. The veterans, the teachers, the nurses, the factory workers who built the foundation we stand on." Joy smirks. "That's lovely, Hugh, really. But if we made a holiday for everyone who ever contributed, we'd never get back to work." The audience chuckles. Hugh laughs too, but his eyes stay steady on hers. "I'm not asking for every name. I'm asking for acknowledgement. We honor celebrities, trends, even shopping days. Why can't we dedicate one national holiday to the people who actually built something lasting?" Sarah Haynes nods thoughtfully. "I think Hugh's saying it's not just about honoring the past, it's about showing gratitude now." Joy tilts her head. "But where's the line? We already have Veterans Day, Labor Day, Memorial Day. Isn't that enough nostalgia for one nation?" There's an audible murmur from the audience. Some nod at Joy's point, others shake their heads. Hugh's voice drops to a calmer, more deliberate tone. "Those days are important, but they're narrow in focus. I'm talking about something broader, something that teaches young people that age doesn't erase value." The studio quiets. Even Whoopi leans in. Joy raises an eyebrow. "Age doesn't erase value, but neither does youth. We're living in a time when young innovators are shaping the world. Maybe it's time to celebrate the next generation instead of constantly looking back." The tension crackles. Hugh smiles faintly. The next generation stands on someone's shoulders. If we forget that, we lose perspective and gratitude. Sunny adds gently, "But Joy has a point about the balance between honoring history and encouraging progress." Joy nods in satisfaction. "Exactly. We can't keep living in the past. Young people already feel buried under history's weight. They need space to create their own story." Hugh's tone stays even, but there's a spark behind his words now. And that's fair. But how do you inspire someone to write a story if you tell them the earlier chapters don't matter? The audience bursts into applause, the kind that carries more emotion than agreement. Half the crowd cheering for Hugh, half for joy. Whoopi chuckles. Okay, we've got a real international showdown here. Australia versus New York. Hugh laughs lightly. No showdown, just passion. Joy folds her arms. You know, it's easy for you to say that, Hugh. You grew up with different values, a different culture. Here in America, we move fast, we innovate, we evolve. That's what makes us who we are. Hugh nods, but his expression tightens. And yet that speed sometimes makes us forget the people we owe it all to. My grandmother told me once that when history moves too fast, the elders become invisible. I think she was right. That line hits differently. The audience goes silent again. Even Joy's smirk falters. Sarah breaks the pause with a soft voice. Maybe it's not about old versus young. Maybe it's about what we choose to remember and who we choose to thank. Joy looks unconvinced, but slightly more measured. Okay, but if we make a holiday for seniors, what does that actually do? Does it change how society treats them, or is it just another date on the calendar? Hugh leans in, his voice low but clear. Maybe it's not about changing the calendar, Joy. Maybe it's about changing our attitude. A day of gratitude reminds people to look back, to visit a parent, to call a teacher, to say thank you. That's what matters. The audience applauds again, louder this time. The energy in the studio shifts, less humor, more heart. Whoopi smiles. Well, I don't know about you all, but I think we're already learning something from this debate. Respect doesn't have an age limit. Joy glances toward Hugh with a grin that's half challenging, half curious. We'll see if you still say that when you're 80, Hugh. Without missing a beat, Hugh smiles back. If I'm lucky enough to reach 80, Joy, I hope someone remembers what I did before they forget who I was. The crowd gasps and claps as Joy sits back, momentarily speechless. The atmosphere is alive, funny, sharp, and increasingly emotional. The conversation isn't over, but everyone knows it's shifting from playful sparring to something deeper. And as Whoopi signals for a quick break, the audience can't stop whispering about what they just saw. The sparks have officially caught fire. The lights shift subtly as the cameras roll again. You can feel the energy in the studio has changed. Less playful, more charged. The chatter from the commercial break dies down as Whoopi Goldberg leans toward the table, sensing the discussion is far from over. All right, Whoopi says, smiling but serious. I think we left off somewhere between gratitude and generational warfare. Let's pick up there. The audience laughs slightly, but the air remains heavy with anticipation. Hugh Jackman sits upright, hands clasped. I just think, he begins, we owe seniors recognition beyond a mention in a speech or a day in a nursing home. They're living history, and that deserves something visible, something national. Joy Behar doesn't hesitate. But Hugh, that's the problem. We already have holidays that do that. Memorial Day honors service, Labor Day honors work. Do we need another one? Or are we just trying to feel better about neglecting seniors the rest of the year? Her tone lands sharp. The audience murmurs, some nodding. Hugh pauses, nodding slightly. You're right, Joy. We do neglect them the rest of the year, and maybe that's the exact reason we need that reminder, a holiday that makes us stop and look at the people we tend to forget. The audience applauds softly. Joy leans in, not satisfied. But wouldn't that just become another day off? People don't suddenly gain empathy because the calendar tells them to. They'll barbecue and shop like every other holiday. Then maybe, Hugh replies calmly, we use that day differently. Maybe it's not about barbecues. Maybe it's about visiting your grandparents, volunteering, recording their stories. You can't legislate empathy, but you can inspire it. Whoopi chuckles quietly. That's a nice line, Hugh. You can't legislate empathy. I like that. The audience cheers briefly. It's poetic, I'll give you that, Joy smirks, but it's not realistic. People barely show up for voting day, and you think they'll volunteer at a senior center? A mix of laughter and groans ripple through the crowd. Sarah Haynes steps in, trying to mediate. Joy, maybe Hugh's point isn't about the logistics. It's about the mindset, a cultural reminder that elders still matter. Sonny Hostin nods. And we can't ignore the data. Loneliness among seniors is one of the biggest health risks today. Maybe awareness days actually help. Joy waves a hand dismissively. We need better health care and stronger communities, not another holiday hashtag. Hugh's face fades. It's not either or, Joy. It's both. If we can create national days to celebrate coffee, dogs, and dance, surely we can spare one to thank the people who shaped our nation. The crowd claps again, this time louder. You can hear the split, half with Joy's realism, half with Hugh's conviction. Joy straightens in her chair, clearly ready to push harder. But Hugh, you're an actor. You live in a world that celebrates legacy every day. The rest of us don't have the luxury of reminiscing about the past. People are struggling to pay rent, raise kids, build their own futures. Maybe focusing too much on the past keeps us from moving forward. The words hang heavy. Hugh blinks slowly, processing them before answering. Joy, that's exactly why we need it. Because when people are struggling, perspective helps. Knowing what others endured and still built something from it gives people hope. That's not looking back, that's learning how to move forward. The audience bursts into applause. Some shout encouragement, others shake their heads, locked into the tug-of-war unfolding before them. Whoopi raises her hand, half joking. You two are giving me a headache, but I can't look away. The audience laughs. Joy crosses her arms. I just don't buy that nostalgia equals progress. We need to stop pretending the past holds all the answers. Hugh shakes his head gently. It doesn't hold all the answers, Joy, but it holds wisdom. You can't build a future without remembering the foundation. You can't teach compassion if you erase the people who taught it first. The crowd claps again, longer this time. You can see it in Joy's expression. She's trying not to show that his words hit a nerve. Sonny jumps in. Maybe we're underestimating how powerful a gesture can be. Recognition has value. It's symbolic, but symbols matter. Joy sighs, trying to regain control of the narrative. Symbols don't feed people, Sonny. They don't fix aging infrastructure or put money into nursing homes. Hugh answers softly, almost somberly. But they remind people to care, and maybe that reminder leads to change. You can't fix what you don't value. That lands like a quiet thunderclap. The audience erupts, cheers, claps, a few even whistle. Joy opens her mouth to respond, but stops. There's a flicker of introspection behind her sarcasm. Whoopi glances at the audience, grinning. Okay, we've got ourselves a philosophical showdown here. Joy chuckles, but the spark in her eyes is still alive. All right, Hugh, since you're all about reflection, what would this new holiday even be called? Elder Appreciation Day? Senior Heroes Monday? Hugh laughs, shaking his head. No labels, just something simple. Something like Heritage Day, a day to listen, to remember, to say thank you. There's a pause, brief but powerful, as his sincerity cuts through the usual talk show banter. Joy tilts her head, quietly impressed despite herself. You really believe that, don't you? Hugh nods, completely. The camera pans across the audience, some nodding, others wiping their eyes. It's no longer a debate about policy. It's about values, legacy, and what it means to truly honor those who came before. Whoopi leans back with a knowing smile. I think this just stopped being about holidays. The lights dim slightly as the applause swells again. The debate has transformed. Less about celebration, more about remembrance. And the stage feels heavier, like everyone, even Joy, is realizing they're part of the same story Hugh is trying to protect.
The set feels quieter now, even though the crowd is still buzzing. The debate that started as an idea about holidays has turned into something heavier, something that touches everyone sitting at that table. Joy looks at Hugh, studying him. "You talk about legacy like it's sacred," she says slowly, "but not everyone had a perfect past. Some people don't want to look back. Some of us only survived by moving forward." The audience murmurs, sensing the shift. Hugh's expression softens. He leans forward, resting his hands on the table. "You're right, Joy. Not every past is pretty. But forgetting it doesn't heal anything. It just silences the people who lived through it." The studio goes still. Whoopi glances between them, her tone gentler now. "You sound like you got something personal behind that, Hugh. Care to share?" Hugh exhales slowly, the kind of breath that comes before a truth you've held for too long. "My father passed away last year, and before he died, I realized how much of him I didn't know. Not because he didn't want to share, but because I never asked." The audience grows silent. Even Joy's expression softens. "He was a man who worked 3 jobs just to keep us together after my mom left. He never complained, never asked for thanks. I spent years celebrating fame, premieres, success, but when I sat next to him in that hospital room, I realized I'd never truly celebrated him." His voice cracks slightly. "That's what I mean about holidays that honor seniors. It's not about pageantry. It's about paying attention before it's too late." You can hear the audience sigh collectively, a low hum of empathy. Joy leans back, folding her arms, but her tone softens. "That's touching, Hugh. I get it. But grief makes everything sound like a cause. You're still feeling that loss." Hugh nods. "Of course I am. And I hope I always will. Because loss reminds you of love, and love deserves space in the world, not just in our memories." The camera lingers on Joy's face. She looks torn, half defensive, half affected. Sunny jumps in quietly. "Joy, maybe that's the point. When people die, we suddenly talk about them non-stop. But when they're alive, we're too busy. Maybe Hugh's just saying, why wait?" The audience applauds softly. Joy exhales, shaking her head, but she doesn't speak right away. You can tell she's thinking. Finally, she says, "I guess I just don't want to romanticize the past. My parents were tough, hard people. They didn't teach legacy. They taught survival." Hugh nods again, listening carefully. "Then they contributed in the most powerful way possible. They endured. That's exactly the kind of strength we should be honoring." Joy looks down briefly, her defenses cracking just enough for the audience to see it. Whoopi leans in with that signature grin. "Joy, he's pulling at your heartstrings, and you know it." Joy chuckles, shaking her head. "He's good, I'll give him that. Maybe he should have been a therapist instead of Wolverine." The audience laughs, lightening the air. Hugh smiles, grateful for the levity. "Maybe therapy's my next career move," he jokes. But then he turned serious again. "Look, I'm not saying a national holiday solves everything, but you'd be amazed what acknowledgement does for someone's dignity. You look an old man in the eye and say thank you for building this country, you give him back a piece of himself." Sunny nods. "That's powerful." Joy raises her hand slightly, trying to reclaim her ground. "But you're assuming every senior wants to be seen. Some just want peace, not attention. Some are private. Isn't forcing recognition another kind of intrusion?" Hugh considers it. "You're right, privacy matters. But respect doesn't have to be invasive. It can be as simple as remembering their stories, learning from them, making sure they're not invisible." Joy sighs. "You make it sound poetic again." He smiles gently. "Maybe it should be." The audience reacts warmly, a wave of applause rolling through. You can see people in the crowd wiping their eyes. Something about his vulnerability feels different. It's not rehearsed, it's raw. Then Joy's tone shifts again, softer but probing. You know, Hugh, a lot of people watching might hear you and think, that's nice for him, but I don't have a dad like that. I don't have those memories. What do you say to them? Hugh looks straight into the camera. Then find someone else's story to honor. A teacher, a neighbor, a stranger who inspired you. You don't have to share blood to share gratitude. The audience erupts in applause, this time spontaneous and genuine. Some people stand. Hugh looks down, clearly moved by the response. Joy's voice is soft now. You really believe people can change how they see the elderly with just a day? He turns to her, calm but steady. I believe one day can start a conversation, and that conversation can start a change, maybe even between us. The camera lingers as Joy looks at him, something between respect and resignation in her expression. For a moment, the noise fades, and it's just two people, across a table, realizing they've both been carrying the same kind of loss. Whoopi clears her throat, half grinning. Well, that's one way to shut up Joy Behar. The audience roars with laughter and applause. Joy smirks, wiping at her eye discreetly. Don't get used to it, Whoopi. But the emotion in the air is undeniable. The topic may have started as policy, but now it's deeply human, about connection, memory, and what we owe those who came before us.
The audience is still applauding when Joy straightens in her seat, the flicker of vulnerability gone. You know, Hugh, she says with a smirk, I think you've just turned grief into a public relations campaign. You talk about respect, but what you're really selling is nostalgia. The air stiffens. The laughter dies as fast as it started. Hugh blinks, caught between disbelief and disappointment. Joy, he says slowly, I don't sell nostalgia. I'm talking about gratitude. Joy crosses her arms. Gratitude's fine, but we can't turn every personal story into national policy. We can't live in the past every time someone feels sentimental. Whoopi and Sunny exchange uneasy glances. The crowd shifts, some booing, others murmuring in defense of Hugh. He leans forward, steady but firm. It's not sentiment, it's empathy. There's a difference. You call it living in the past, I call it learning from it. Joy scoffs. That's poetic, but the world moves forward. Seniors already have Social Security, retirement benefits, senior discounts. You want to give them a parade now, too? The audience gasps at the tone. Hugh's expression hardens. You think a discount replaces dignity? You think a few dollars off a coffee makes up for the way we ignore people once they stop being useful to society? The studio goes silent again. Even Joy looks taken aback by the raw emotion in his tone. Hugh presses on, voice trembling slightly but unwavering. The people you call past tense, they raised the generation sitting in this room. They fought wars, built families, survived harder times than we could imagine, and we repay them by pretending they don't matter anymore? The audience bursts into applause. Some people stand. Whoopi nods, visibly impressed. Preach, Hugh. Joy holds her ground, but her tone softens, almost defensive. I'm not saying they don't matter. I'm saying the world changes. Every generation has to let go. Hugh shakes his head. Letting go isn't the same as erasing. You can move forward without forgetting who cleared the path. The applause grows louder. Joy looks around, realizing she's lost the crowd, but she's not ready to back down completely. So what? Every holiday should turn into a guilt trip? Should we all stop celebrating progress because someone older might feel left out? Hugh stands up slightly, hands on the table. No, Joy. We celebrate progress by remembering who made it possible. The audience erupts in cheers. For a second, Joy just stares at him, her face unreadable. Then, almost under her breath, she says, You really believe that, don't you? Hugh nods.
every word. The tension hangs heavy. Joy exhales, leaning back in her chair, trying to hide the faint tremor in her voice. "You're a tough guy to argue with." Hugh smiles faintly. "That's because this one isn't an argument. It's a truth." The camera pans across the audience. Teary eyes, slow nods, a few people clapping quietly, despite the lingering silence. Whoopi leans forward, cutting the tension. "Let's take a break before we all need therapy," she jokes. The crowd laughs, relieved but still emotional. The camera catches Hugh glancing toward Joy. For a second, their eyes meet, not as rivals, but as two people who finally understand what the other was trying to say. The segment fades to black on that image, the applause still echoing, the studio still charged with something deeper than disagreement.
When the view returns from the break, the atmosphere feels lighter, yet heavier in all the right ways. The tension is drained, but the emotion lingers. The audience sits quietly, waiting to see how things will land. Whoopi smiles as she welcomes everyone back. "All right, that was something. We just had one of the most honest exchanges I've seen on this show in a long time." The crowd claps softly. Joy chuckles, shaking her head. "Yeah, I think I forgot we were on live television for a minute there." Hugh laughs too, the tension between them easing. That's when the truth usually shows up. The audience laughs gently, but the tone has shifted. It's less about entertainment now, more about connection. Sonny turns to Hugh. "You really believe national holidays could bring people closer to that truth, don't you?" Hugh nods. "I do. Not because of the holiday itself, but because of the pause it gives us. We spend our lives running forward. Sometimes it takes one quiet moment to look back and realize who carried us here." A few people in the audience applaud, others nod quietly. It's the kind of moment that feels personal to everyone, even if they don't say it out loud. Joy looks at him thoughtfully. "You know, I still think people should be allowed to move on without feeling guilty about it. But maybe we've been moving so fast we forgot what we left behind." Hugh smiles warmly. "That's all I was saying. Reflection isn't about guilt, it's about gratitude." The crowd applauds again, this time louder, more unified. Whoopi glances toward the audience. It's rare that a conversation like this doesn't just spark debate, it sparks feeling. And I think we all felt something today. Joy nods. "Yeah, and for the record, I still don't want another holiday." Laughter fills the studio again. "But," Joy adds with a grin, "I might call my aunt tonight. Haven't talked to her in a while." The audience lets out a collective, "Aw." Hugh smiles, his eyes soft. That's better than any holiday. As the applause swells, the camera catches a few audience members wiping tears. One older man in the front row stands, clapping slowly. Others follow until the whole studio rises. Hugh looks humbled. He nods to the crowd, then back to Joy. "You've got a good heart, Joy, even when you're throwing jabs." She laughs. "Don't ruin my reputation, Hugh." Whoopi wraps it up perfectly. Maybe that's the point. Whether it's a holiday or a phone call, remembering the people who came before us might be the only tradition that never goes out of style. The audience gives one final thunderous round of applause. The credits begin to roll, but the emotion hangs in the air. And just when it seems over, a behind-the-scenes clip leaks online later that night. Hugh walking off stage, stopping to hug that older man from the front row. No cameras around, no performance, just a quiet thank you. The moment goes viral overnight. Headlines read, "Hugh Jackman reminds the world what gratitude looks like." And in the comments below, one viewer writes what everyone else was thinking. We argue so much about who deserves recognition. Maybe the truth is simple. Everyone who came before us deserves to be seen, even just for a day. If you enjoyed this powerful moment, make sure to subscribe for more celebrity showdowns, emotional debates, and unforgettable TV confrontations. Drop a comment below. Do you think we've forgotten how to honor the people who built our world?